A new movie has entered the top 10 highest grossing films of all time, so it's time for my updated ranking. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I am ranking the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time. I'll give you guys my list 10 through 1, and with my pick, I will also tell you how much money the film has grossed as of today. Before I dive into this, though, be sure to hit that like button and comment down below your ranking of the top 10 highest grossing movies ever made. Subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. If you want extra content, such as reaction videos, commentary tracks, on occasion reviews, you can find that over on my Patreon. Your support over there means a lot. Anything goes a very long way on the Film Stocked Patreon. All right, so without further ado, let's dive into this top 10. At number 10 on the list, really no surprise to anyone, is going to be The Lion King 2019 live-action remake. The movie grossed $1.66 billion worldwide, and to me, it's one of the cheapest, laziest films in terms of remakes I've ever seen. It's basically a shot-for-shot remake of the beloved 1994 film, my personal favorite animated film ever made, and it's just lifeless because while we get to see some hyper-realistic animation of these animals, it really restricts the movie from having any emotion. There's no facial expressions on these lions or, Rafiki, any of these animals. They're just so hyper-realistic that automatically when I'm watching, I'm just like, oh, this is more like a nature documentary than The Lion King. The original animated film has this gorgeous animation. You see animals have cartoon-like facial expressions that convey sadness, happiness, joy, you name it. Those emotions are just lost in translation when you go and make a hyper-realistic animated live action film, whatever you want to call it. And so as a result, there was a real disconnect for me with this movie. I also found the soundtrack to be a shell of what it once was in that animated film. They did Be Prepared dirty. I mean, this movie from beginning to end was a drag. And while I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, I want to erase this from my memory and just focus on the classic from the 90s. Why did they make an inferior version? Well, it made $1.66 billion, that's why, and we're getting Mufasa in a few months. That'll probably do well. It's hard to read that one as much anymore, but regardless, this movie's a stinker to me because it's just a cheap knockoff.
You're just a cheap fucking knockoff.
At number 9 on my list, I've got Avatar: The Way of Water, which pulled in $2.32 billion worldwide, one of the top 3 highest grossing movies ever. And to me, this is pretty much beat for beat the first Avatar. Undeniably, the visual effects are out of this world. That's what Avatar's calling card is. Hey, we've got some of the best visual effects you're ever going to see in a movie. You can see it in 3D, you can see it in Dolby, you can see it in all these premium formats, but the movie itself doesn't provide much for me. I found it, again, to have so many similar plot details to the first Avatar. I was like, this is just a rehash of the first movie, a reskin, if you will, and I didn't buy into it. You've got them hunting that mineral in the whales, just like how they're going after what's in the trees in the first Avatar. I just didn't care about this movie. Way too long, over 3 hours for what? You got 20-minute sequences of characters swimming with whales. I just didn't care about this movie. I don't. I know a lot of people do. Avatar's not my cup of tea, and that's why my number 8 is the original Avatar. It's the highest grossing movie of all time. It grossed $2.92 billion. They had it in theaters forever, kept re-releasing it. And the big marketing gimmick here is the visual effects. No one goes to an Avatar movie for the story, for the plot, for the characters, for anything other than the visual effects. It's like going and watching a hyper-realistic nature documentary for 3 hours with really stale characters. It's a plot we've seen recycled in media for decades, and there's nothing special about the first Avatar except the visual effects, and funnily enough, if you go revisit it now, the visual effects aren't even as good as they once were. The movie's very boring. I honestly was dozing off when I rewatched it last, and after rewatching it before Avatar: The Way of Water, I'm like waving the white flag. It's gonna take a lot out of me to want to go see the next Avatar because it's just gonna be the Way of Water plot with fire people, and then we're gonna get 2 more, and they're just gonna change. Oh, it's gonna be Earth. At this point, it's indirectly ripping off, or not even indirectly, straight up ripping off Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I just can't do it anymore. I don't care. Visual effects, yes, I'll sit here and praise them to the end of time because they're undeniably great. Anything else, don't care. At number 7 on my list, I've got Jurassic World, which I do not think is a very good movie. It's entertaining, though, and it has compelling characters, unlike Avatar 1 and 2, which is why it edges those movies out. In terms of the Jurassic franchise, the original is the king, and it's not even close. It's not even close. Jurassic Park is leagues better than any of the sequels that would follow. Jurassic World's all right. It's okay. Chris Pratt as Owen Grady, a fun enough character. You got Bryce Dallas Howard in the picture, and you get big dinos with some dino action. I mean, I can't complain. It's like your summer blockbuster popcorn movie, but it's still a shell of what Jurassic should be. Jurassic Park, all-time great stuff. And then you got Jurassic World, and it's like, it's fine, but something's clearly missing. It's that magic, that charm, and it's Spielberg behind the camera. That's been missing ever since the first film. He didn't even do as good of a job with Lost World, in my opinion. So, like, Jurassic World's fine. It's serviceable. It's like a 3 to 3.5, but again, doesn't reach the heights of Jurassic Park, and nothing else in that franchise really does. But coming in at number 6 on my list, I've got Inside Out 2, the newest member of the top 10 highest grossing films ever. As of right now, the movie's made $1.52 billion. I don't even think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to reach this height, so Inside Out 2 likely to be the highest grossing movie of the year, which I did not think was going to be the case coming in. To me, it makes sense why this movie works, though. It's a sequel done right. It's a return to form for Pixar, and it's a relatable story. Everyone who went and saw Inside Out when it came out in 2015, from the ages of 5 to 10 to 12, have grown up and experienced a whole new set of emotions that this sequel tackles, and so this movie grew up with its audience. Inside Out also gained a lot of popularity on Disney Plus, as Disney Plus has the whole Pixar and Disney catalog, and so it makes sense that this movie works. I was 15 when it came out, I was 24 when the sequel came out. I've gone through a whole new set of life experiences, and so anxiety and embarrassment, all these different emotions, they're more relatable than just the basic emotions we see in the first film. On top of that, it's just a human story. It's relatable. Everyone in the world goes through puberty, goes through change in life, and so it's inherently a relatable story, and Pixar has their magic back with this one. It's got the Pixar flair, the tears will be swelling, it's funny. It's great. It's a great family Pixar film, and it is a true return to form, in my opinion. So I applaud this movie's success. I hope it keeps racking it up. I love to see wins like this, and hopefully Pixar can get back on track with the momentum they built from Inside Out 2. Bringing us into the top 5, I've got Titanic, a movie I've only seen once, but I remember it vividly. It grossed $2.26 billion globally, making it one of the highest grossing movies ever made. It's about 3 hours and 15 minutes long, so I don't go back to this one often, but it's undeniably a classic. Everyone seemingly has seen Titanic. We're all aware of the ending, Should Jack have lived? That's an argument that's been going on since the 90s. It's movie magic. The VFX are amazing. It's a love story. The Titanic is such a historic event that everyone had to see this movie. I also like how it cuts to Bill Paxton's character in present day and the search for the necklace. And Titanic, the only Best Picture winner on this list. At number 4, I've got Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, which did $2.07 billion worldwide. This kickstarted the sequel trilogy. It was the first Star Wars movie I was able to see in theaters, and I was beyond excited. I don't know if I've ever been this excited to see a movie in theaters. Of course, my excitement was up there for, Infinity War, Endgame, No Way Home, but in 2015, we hadn't had anything Star Wars since Revenge of the Sith. I was 5 when that came out. I was 15 when this came out. I was over the moon ready. The hype going into The Force Awakens, I don't know if we'll ever experience again, because Star Wars was unblemished to many at that point in time. Disney hadn't gotten their hands on it yet. We hadn't gotten The Last Jedi. The divisiveness, the toxicity was at a low. Everyone was unified for new Star Wars, and the joy, the hope, if you will, was unmatched, and I don't think we're ever going to reach that again because of the damage done by a lot of the Star Wars Disney Plus series, by some of the sequel movies. Like, there's just so much divisiveness, and it's just become a cesspool, really, that I don't think we're ever going to be unified again to be this excited for a new Star Wars movie. It's a damn shame because that era was unmatched, and the movie's a blast. Yes, very similar, plot details to A New Hope, but I didn't mind that at the time because A New Hope's my favorite Star Wars film. It felt fresh. It got Han back in the picture. Chewie, we're home. I mean, the movie just had the classic Star Wars feel. It was an adventure. I saw it 3 times in theaters, and I still really like the movie. I just don't go back to it as much because I know what follows in Eps 8 and 9, and so I'm like, it didn't ruin it for me, right? The 2 sequels, Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, they didn't ruin this movie for me, but they've definitely tainted my enjoyment and my ability to go rewatch it as much as I once did, because there was a point in time before Last Jedi where I watched this movie all the damn time. But coming in at number 3, what do we got? We got No Way Home. That's going to be my number 3. Spider-Man No Way Home did $1.92 billion worldwide, and if it weren't for the pandemic, I think this movie would have made even more. It did not get a release in China, I believe. Someone fact check me in the comments, but I don't think this got a China release. If it did, it's in the $2 billion club comfortably, and probably passes The Force Awakens, maybe Titanic. This movie gave us everything we wanted. All 3 live-action Spider-Men swinging on screen together, cracking jokes together, having heart-to-hearts together, but above all else, Tom Holland's Peter Parker in the MCU finally experienced real loss, and by the end of the movie, he understands the importance of having the mask. Being Spider-Man is more important than Peter Parker's own desires, and you gotta put the mask above yourself sometimes. Beautiful ending. He's got a fresh start with a new suit. He can be that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in the MCU. This movie rules. It also gave us Dafoe's Goblin. It gave us Doc Ock. I mean, everything about it I loved. It was a celebration of Spider-Man. It's the definitive Spider-Man movie to me, and it will always hold a special place in my heart. And then coming in at number 2 and number 1, I'm going to talk about them together. Number 2 is going to be Endgame. Number 1 is going to be Infinity War. Endgame, of course, did $2.8 billion worldwide and was the highest grossing movie for a while until an Avatar re-release. And Infinity War did $2.05 billion. I've talked about these movies ad nauseum over the course of my channel. I mean, I've said everything there is to say about them, but I just want to highlight how special these movies are to me. Together, the 1-2 punch that is Infinity War Endgame. Honestly, an era that we'll never get back. Like, yes, Marvel could knock it out of the park with Doomsday and Secret Wars, but we're never going to experience, in my mind, that era of Marvel again, and it's so special. And it's one of those things where, like, in the moment, I don't think I could fully appreciate the greatness I was witnessing, but like years removed, I'm like, yeah, that was the best it's probably going to get. And that's not a shot at what's upcoming for Marvel. I'm beyond excited to see Fantastic Four, and, you know, I loved Deadpool and Wolverine. No Way Home was a blast. Guardians 3 was great. But it has to do with the quality on screen, you know, the care they put in, and then also the characters themselves. Like, we saw Iron Man over a decade, Cap over like a decade. All these characters, we finally got to see that payoff, and it was so rewarding to see them take down Thanos. And on top of that, we got to see all these characters on screen together, from the Guardians to Thor, you name it. It was so sick. But also, personally, for me at least, I was like in junior and senior year of high school when those movies came out, and so there's that nostalgia factor with it as well, where I watched these movies in theaters in, you know, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then like Infinity War Endgame like capped off my like high school journey. And so like in a way, I look at those movies fondly because it like capped off a whole chapter of my life. And so I'm nostalgic about it, admittedly. I think we all can look back on high school years and be like, yeah, I had a lot of fun. Obviously, the best was yet to come in life, but it is fun to reminisce, you know, all the days at the high school lunch table just theorizing, oh my God, what's going to happen in Endgame? That 1 year gap, I mean, that was a special time, and I'm very appreciative of it. I'm glad I was able to live through it, and to me, the Infinity War Endgame, the whole Infinity Saga is like, it's my Star Wars. It's a lot of you guys watching this, it's our Star Wars. We didn't get to have that original trilogy growing up, but people just raved about it. They're like, oh, you had to be there. Like, the Infinity Saga, specifically Infinity War Endgame, you just had to be there, and I'll never forget it. I'll always appreciate it, and it might even elevate my love for the movies, admittedly. Like, critiques of the film aside, like those two movies are just so special to me, and the time in my life that I watched them, they got to be 1 and 2, and you know, part of the journey is the end. I get bittersweet just thinking about it, but my God, that was an achievement for Marvel. I don't think we'll ever get a Portals moment that means as much in the MCU, maybe ever. But that does it for my ranking of the top 10 highest grossing films of all time. Please let me know yours in the comments down below, and hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. And if you guys want extra content, from reaction videos to commentary tracks to the occasional review, even live Q&As, you can find that over on my Patreon. Your support over there truly does mean the world, so consider joining the Film Stocked Patreon community today. But thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.